everyone and welcome back to the farm. It's July and it means it's time for another flower-filled farm tour. Today I'm going to take you around and show you how things are growing, including a little update on my crate growing experiment, what seeds I've been sowing lately and some of the cuttings I've been taking recently. We'll also take a look at how these flower beds are doing and what is blooming right now on the farm. Later on, I'm going to have a catch up with Hattie to see how things are going for her, what successes she's having at the moment, as well as the challenges she is facing. So grab a cuppa and let's take a wander through the fields. So I'm over here at the 4 beds that I am growing on this year. There is these 2 here and then the 2 at the end. And what I've got here is cosmos, zinnias, marigolds, snapdragons, more zinnias, helichrysum, scabious, more cosmos, and then a bed and a half of dahlias. And these beds are actually really struggling this year. And that is not only because of the heat and the lack of rain that we've had this year, but also the circumstances in which these beds were made. So these were made when I arrived at the farm a couple of months ago and wanted to get them set up quickly, ready to plant into. And what I did at the time was so Hattie had actually previously put plastic down on them to kill off the grass, and then I came along, took the plastic off, put the cardboard down, put the compost on and planted straight into it. And this compost is green waste compost, which is not the greatest stuff in the world, but it kind of acts as a mulch material on top of the soil. And what we hope happens is that the cardboard breaks down very quickly, and by the time the plants are ready to get the roots down, the cardboard has broken down and they can make their way into the soil below, which is a much better environment for the plant roots to be in. They don't really want to be rooting into this green waste compost. But this stuff is very hydrophobic and it's quite hard to stay hydrated. We had quite a lot of rain over the weekend, but I had a little dig down into the soil, into the compost this morning, and there isn't much moisture left there. After a couple of months of the cardboard being down, it still hasn't broken down. However, there are certain plants that you can tell have got their roots down into the soil, such as the cosmos behind me. It's looking pretty healthy now. It was looking a little bit sad before, but it's looking okay. And these sunflowers, I tried to plant them. I actually broke through the cardboard into the soil below and I planted them down into the soil, so they've got established a little bit quicker than everything else. But some of the things are looking a little bit sad, like the zinnias, the snapdragons. I think they got a little bit stressed and they have bolted and they've got flower buds on them already, but they're only a couple of inches or a few inches tall. So I'm hoping that we're going to get some rain and it's going to continue to let things grow, because things are getting very stressed out in this compost, in the heat, in the lack of rain. So that's really been a struggle for these beds this year. At the same time as planting these dahlias out in these beds, I planted out into the crates, and the crate grown dahlias seem to be doing a lot better than the ones in the beds, which I will show you in just a second. But these dahlias are taking a little bit more time to establish, and what we really need is a little bit more rain for them to get going. But we have given them a feed today, so I'm hoping that they're going to perk up pretty soon. So you might remember from a video a couple of weeks ago, I was sowing hardy annual seeds, and those were the last succession of the season, and they were quick to flower varieties like sunflowers, zinnias and cosmos. We are kind of running out of time for those things now. If you direct seeded them, you might get a harvest in September, but for the majority of cut flowers, it's too late now. So these plants have got to quite a nice size, and I'm going to plant them out into this bed here, and this will kind of fill up the space that I have here on Hattie's farm. I've got a couple of the floret zinnia varieties. I've got the unicorn mix, and I've got Dawn Creek honey. So those are going to go out as well. And then I've got Cupcakes Blush Cosmos, and then I've got Marigold Elevate Orange, which is a nice bright marigold that's probably going to work quite well in market bouquets. So I'm going to fill up the rest of this bed and just wait for them to grow and flower. Hopefully it won't be too long until some of the other stuff starts flowering. The Cosmos is looking quite healthy now. I think it's got its roots down into the soil below. Some of the other stuff is struggling, but once it gets its roots down into the soil, it should be happy and romping away, and it will only be a matter of weeks before things are looking a lot better. So I'm over here now where the crates are, the supermarket crates that I'm growing some dahlias and perennials in this year. And these have done surprisingly well. I actually didn't have very high hopes for these supermarket crates because I thought that they were going to dry out and kind of be difficult to manage, be a little bit high maintenance, but actually they've been pretty low maintenance, and the moisture has stayed in them very nicely, and that could be something to do with the wool that is in the bottom of the crates that is just holding on to the moisture for the plants to feed upon when they need it, and because, as we've said, it's been very dry recently, that what was a concern, but obviously we haven't had to really worry too much about the watering. And these dahlias were planted at exactly the same time as, actually I think they were planted after the ones I planted out into the field, and you can just see the difference. They are looking loads healthier and a lot bigger, and I've even had my first 3 dahlias that I've cut from these crates last weekend, and I took those to the farmer's market. Those bouquets were actually my favourite ones because they felt more like my style. I took lots of bouquets that were filled with sunflowers, eryngium, etc., and although I liked the look of them, it didn't necessarily feel like my style. So the ones with my first crate grown dahlias in, I was very proud of, and they actually sold pretty much at the beginning of the day, so I was very happy about that. So as well as dahlias, I've got lots of perennials in these crates. I think I've got about 30 crates altogether, and each crate has a maximum of 2 plants in it, so there's around 60 perennials here. I've got some Symphotrichum, some Prairie Sky and Little Carlo variety. I've got some Achillea argyratum, also known as English mace, and some Limonium latifolium, and also this Anthemis, I can't think of the full name, but I'll put it on I think it's Anthemis tinctora buxton, which is a nice yellow daisy flower, which I think is going to go really nice with dahlias when all of that becomes abundant. So one thing I have had trouble with is when I would like to feed or water these crates, the soil has become quite compacted on the surface. So when I pour a watering can onto the surface of the soil, it kind of just washes away. So in a couple of the crates I've buried some bottles, and I've put some small holes in the bottles so that the water can drip down directly to the root zone of the plant and not wash off the top. So I did that yesterday, and I put some of the fermented seaweed feed in it, so hopefully that's going to be a really effective way of getting water and food to the plants. But all in all, I'm really happy with the way that the crate growing experiment is going, and there's lots of buds appearing on the dahlias, so I think within a couple of weeks we'll be cutting quite a lot of flowers from these crates. So I'll keep you updated as the season goes along. So Hattie and I are just feeding all of our plants, or at least we're feeding kind of a few beds here, maybe 5 or 6, 7 beds. Yeah, with with all of this water that we've got here, and we've come up with this new technique for getting stuff fed quickly and efficiently. So we've been bringing the wheelbarrow in here, filling it up with water, and all of our natural concoctions that we like to feed our plants with, and then dipping the watering cans in and watering the beds so that we're not carrying water from one place to another. We're not going too far with it.
And I think because it's been so hot, I'm not certain that the foliar feed is working in the right way. If you're spraying it on, even on an evening, it's been so hot and dry that it feels important to get the nutrients at the roots.
So we've got lots of different things going into our feed today. We've probably got 5, 6, 7 different things. We're starting with water from the tap, which isn't the ideal situation. What we would like to do is use rainwater because it is not chlorinated. And if we're using things that have got living organisms in it, then we want to use dechlorinated water because the chlorine will kill off those microorganisms. So to protect those, we would use rainwater, or we would let the tap water gas off overnight for 24 hours.
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah, to gas off the chlorine. Or you could use humic acid, which ties up chlorine and gets rid of it out of the system. So when you put your living organisms in, then it's fine. So what we've done here is we've just literally filled up the wheelbarrow and put some humic acid in along with all of the other stuff to minimise that chlorine. And then what else are we going in with?
We're putting in blackstrap molasses, which increases the Brix levels because it's high in sugar, and then a homemade calcium. So this is the duck eggs that we've got from the ducks on the farm. Their eggshells are dried and then zapped up and added to apple cider vinegar, which kind of bubbles up and then extracts the cider, that would be good, the calcium. Calcium's really good for strong stems. I would say it's like the #1 thing for dahlias. You know, if you want that like long, straight stem, that strength, I definitely notice a difference with that one.
Yeah.
And then there's a homemade fermented weed feed that's made up of the weeds that we struggle with on site, and then a couple of handfuls of leaf mulch from underneath some of the bigger trees. So if you've not got large trees on your site, if you go to a woodland, the Jadam method is like as near as you possibly can get, so the microbes are right for your site. And that really is like really bubbly still, even though it's made a few months ago now.
And I think that the purpose of using the weeds that are common on your site is that those weeds are there to serve a purpose. They're pulling up minerals from deep down that are maybe not so present in the surface layers. And when you're fermenting them down in water, those minerals and nutrients become available, and then you're putting them back to the plants. And it's sort of like a fast track way to feed plants what they need.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got all of those things in. We've got
your new experimental.
Yes, this is my new thing that I bought the other day at Groundswell, and I just wanted to try it out. It's fermented seaweed, and it's sourced from seaweed that has been pulled up on the ropes of mussel growing ropes, I guess. So the people that produce this stuff get a call from the people who produce the mussels, and they say, we've got a fresh batch of seaweed, do you want to come and get it? So they head down to the beach, collect the seaweed, and then they ferment it in whatever way they ferment it in. And it absolutely stinks. It's really strong smelling. So I'm hoping that means it's going to be really good for the plants. And I think because it's fermented, hopefully the nutrients in the seaweed is going to be extra concentrated. And seaweed contains lots and lots of minerals and nutrients that are essential to plant growth, and it also contains lots of plant growth hormones that are going to be good for stress relief on plants, and they need it right now, don't they, because it's very hot and dry.
Yeah, this is such a dry summer. There's usually maybe you'd be more considered about what you feed, because obviously it's quite an expensive way of feeding everything. But I think because we're having such a dry and quite stressful summer, we might as well hedge our bets and give them a little bit of everything. So we've got seaweed, humic acid, molasses, calcium, and weed feed.
A little bit of everything. And because we've put molasses in, it's quite thick and sort of sinks to the bottom. So Hattie's giving it a good stir with a wooden stick. And then what we'll do is dunk the watering cans into it and feed our plants, and hopefully they'll perk up after this.
I think I've read in a few different places that using a wooden stick is better than using something metal or plastic.
Yes, yeah.
And that there are ideas on like the different ways that you should even stir it, but is that biodynamic rather than a Korean farming method?
I don't know a lot about biodynamics, but I know that there is something about the energy, about transferring energy into water, which is then transferred into the plants. But I need to do more research on that.
Actually, I thought it was going to really smell, but it's not as bad as I thought. It is a murky colour. I think that's the best word for it.
So we've got our dahlias, you've got your dahlias fed, I've got my beds fed, and I thought we would just have a little catch up and find out what you've been up to recently on the farm, what's going well for you at the moment, what isn't. Maybe you could talk us through some of those things.
Yeah, I feel like this year is another year of loads of lessons.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to stop though, is it? That's what I'm getting the feeling of.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with the overwintered dahlias. They've come back beautifully. Have struggled a little bit with thrips, mostly on the white ones, but the pink, there's the Hamari Rose, which is one of both of our favourites, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looks really good. And I have a wedding next week that these are just going to be perfect for, so it's nice when that synchronicity happens. So overwinter dahlias have been really good. The 3 other beds of dahlias, they are, I don't know, would you say about a third smaller? Some of them are quarter smaller.
Yeah.
They're all new this year. What I'm really pleased about those 3 beds is they're the beds I put cover crops on, and I can really tell the difference between the soil that's on there versus the soil on the 11 back beds that are new as well, where we haven't had a chance to put cover crops on and we've just had to plant straight out. I think both of us have struggled with the soil being dry.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's like an experiment in front of our very eyes, the difference in the soil. So definitely cover crops are a key part of your farm, for especially when you're making new beds, if you're doing no dig.
Definitely. Have you noticed, apart from the soil, have you noticed anything else like weed pressure being any less on those dahlia beds?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's probably held back the grass a bit. I mean, I've mentioned a few times that we've got, I never know whether it's couch or couch grass, but that pressure, that's been really hard. That's probably been the biggest challenge this year. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the fact it's in your beds, it's that you can see it, and it's almost like a mental resilience not to let it get you down, that you can see all those weeds, because weeds aren't the end of the world. Yeah. I just think the grass is like really insidious and gets like right across everywhere. Mm-hmm. But where I've really heavily mulched, or I've had the wool on top, there's definitely it's been a lot easier to weed. Yeah. What else has done well? I don't know about you, but I feel like some things have been really early, mm-hmm. and then other things quite slow. I just think you're seeing the impact of heat, and this summer's been, was it the hottest June on record, or the second? I think so, hottest? Yeah. So things like Achillea have done really well. Anything mm-hmm. that's quite drought tolerant. Yeah. Made a lot of use of the feverfew. That's been really abundant. Yeah. I think I've changed my opinion on that, as a cut fly. It's quite useful, isn't it? Yeah. It's a really good, it's kind of different to Achillea in terms of how it acts in a floral arrangement. Yeah. And it kind of adds that cottagey countryside feeling, I suppose. And it's quite joyful and fun. Yeah. The perennial phlox has been really good. It's come a lot earlier this year, though I have noticed there's a patch where I did some moving around, and I've actually, on Sunday, I spent an hour in the summer house planning all the changes I'm going to make to the field. I got to 26 changes, which I thought was quite a lot. So there's some perennials that are coming out because they're not viable, they're not useful enough. Mm-hmm. But I've decided I'm going to make, round the summer house, a wildflower garden with native flowers, so the oxeye daisy,
nice.
and moving from the farm area into there, so I can still have them, still get the wildlife benefits, and if I ever need a couple.
Yeah.
But I definitely can see what's really popular with florists and what works in bridal work even more this year.
Yeah.
So many lessons.
So the oxeye daisy, and what else is going from the perennials?
The chicory.
Yeah.
I think I was in desperation of blue, had bought the chicory, but it's a really unusual flower. It sort of can close up in the dark and the heat, and it looks really beautiful when it's out, but the rest of the time it just kind of looks like a weed. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so lovely that I definitely would like to keep it in the garden.
Yeah.
And then there's things that I definitely want to add in, like I've seen the gaps in the field.
Yeah.
Actually, like I really could do with some more bronze fennel, because I love having the succession of different umbellifers. So we've gone from Orleia to Ami to Dorcas. The Dorcas will probably be over in a couple of weeks, and then the bronze fennel will come in.
Yeah.
And so even though it's not the succession of the same flower, I'm getting the succession of the type of flower.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that if you, like, Orleia's obviously not going to do well over the summer, but if you can find that kind of the way you want that flower to perform, if you can pick something that suits the climate and the time of year, then that's perfect, isn't it?
It's definitely been a hot summer. I think when we chatted it was May, and it had been quite dry, but it's the consistent heat and the lack of rain.
Yeah.
Really low rainfall. So I think I'm gearing up thinking that my biggest winter job will be really thinking about large-scale water storage for rain. So if anyone's an engineer and they've got ideas...
Yes. Hattie could do with some ideas for irrigation, because your water pressure isn't great, and also you are on a metre, aren't you? So you don't necessarily want to be pumping it out the taps all of the time.
Yeah.
So you are also sowing some little extra bits and bobs for the end of the season, aren't you? Because you've sort of taken a few crops out. I can't think what you have.
So there was the Jacob's ladder, the purple polonium.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful flower, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really good in a garden. If you're creating a cottage garden, I think you couldn't have a nicer plant. But just that colour purple, around May, there's plenty of it. So what I've done is I've just got a little stand of it, put it into the cutting garden rather than the field. And so I've taken that out. And also my delphiniums really struggled this year. So I've taken all of those out, put them into pots where I can just kind of get them bulked up a bit, bigger roots, and feed in them. So in those beds, I have direct sown Mexican marigold, some more Ami, Melope, and then in other beds I put some calendula, and I've direct sown zinnia, because I just feel that things are going over a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Hopefully that also means things will start quite quickly. Like I think on the seed packet often says like germination 7 to 14 days, and that's to do with the conditions that you're working in. Yeah. And things are already coming up.
Yeah. So we were just saying earlier on about how it's going, if that's successful, then it's going to be nice to be able to pick from fresh plants in September time rather than tired plants that you've gone over quite a few times.
So you're probably not going to get, in comparison, the same cuts per plant than something that's you've started in spring and maybe bulked up. Yeah. But when the field's starting to get tired, you're going to have some fresh. And I've done that with scabious. I did some sort of succession planting with scabious and feverfew. So hopefully within that, with chrysanthemums, dahlias, zinnias, there's some nice end of summer, beginning of autumn mix of flowers. Yeah.
Because last year our first frost didn't come till quite late, did it? And we were picking flowers. I was picking flowers well into November, actually.
Yeah. So. But you definitely see, I feel like the dahlias don't like the really long days of high midsummer, and then they start to get really productive around August, September. Yeah. And obviously, like, we keep on top of feeding them, but you still are taking a lot from a plant, so they do reduce the amount that you can cut. I think one of the strange sciences of flower farming is having all the different ingredients needed in a bouquet. So the umbellifers, the focal flowers, the frothy things. And And it isn't a perfect science because everything can come and go at a different time. I have to say I'm really, really looking forward to 6 full beds of dahlias in August, the colour, and then with yours in as well. It'll be quite a riot, won't it?
Yeah. We'll be coming back next month to do another farm tour, I'm sure, to keep the viewers updated on how the farm is progressing and also the changes that are being made and that kind of thing. So thanks for showing us around again.
It's all right.
And
I'll go take the famous dog, or the infamous dog.
The little scruff bag.
For a walk now.
So as you can see, there's lots of exciting things happening here on the farm, as well as some challenges such as the heat and the lack of rain. I'm really looking forward to some of the dahlias arriving in the next couple of weeks. I think that we're going to see lots from the crates more quickly than we will see from the flower beds, but hopefully at next month's market there's going to be lots of dahlias in the bouquets. If you want to see how my July market did, then check out that video, and I will certainly be filming my time at the August market as well, so you can see how that goes. Don't forget to check out the other videos here on the channel. I've got lots of videos about soil health, growing flowers, arranging flowers, etc. And I wondered if you could help me out with something. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers here on YouTube this summer, and I am about 5,000 subscribers away. So if you're not subscribed but you watch my videos, I would love it if you would help me out by clicking that subscribe button, and you will be notified every time I post a new video. It's totally free and it's really helpful to me, so thank you very much, and I will see you on the next video. Goodbye guys.